Record. All right. So this is gonna be our one of our first forays into a podcast that we're actually gonna post online this time. We've done so many of this. I feel like we have like a day's worth of material that's just saved on our individual stuff that we just haven't
Mm.
put on. But hopefully this will be the first that we just put on the Realm of Shenanigans YouTube channel, and it's gonna start from there. And we're gonna do a consistent thing, and we're gonna keep at it. And I hope I don't watch this video 3 months from now and go like, "Well, that shit didn't happen." But we're
No,
gonna
no,
keep
no.
we're gonna keep
Yeah.
at it.
Okay,
So
good.
so this is as I said, the Realm of Shenanigans podcast, where we talk about things ranging from video games, pop culture, politics and social issues, and everything in between. From, I guess you can't really call us laymen, because I feel like both of us do more research than the average Joe. But as people who are just doing research, we're not like actually in these fields. We're just looking around. Like, this is information accessible to anybody. So I guess layman in that perspective. But I'm not sure if the names on the Zoom thing show on the YouTube video, but I don't even know. Like, there's my name, my legal birth name. So if anyone wants to cancel me, they already have all the access to it. So I can't even use my alias Wacko
Um,
Swami, which is what I would normally use, but it's whatever. But what's it called? I'll try to call you Yoshi. I'm not sure how many times I've used your real name since I started recording, but I'll try to call you Yoshi. So, Yoshi, we're going to talk about marriage and what both genders gain or don't gain at all from it. And I know this is a.
Fire started in my heart. Oh, hey, welcome to Rebel Shenanigans podcast.
yes.
So much.
I was waiting.
Yes.
I was waiting for the perfect
Yes.
time to do
God,
that.
I hate you.
Yoshi, I'm gonna do that for every single episode. It's gonna be a random song, probably Adele. That's gonna be my intro.
Oh,
Okay,
you're the
man.
worst.
That's the
The
Spectacular.
worst.
And that's E Money Squared, who, if you couldn't tell already, is just the worst. Just the absolute worst.
Comedy
So,
hype.
so Yoshi, I know you in particular have done a lot of research on MGTOW and the red pill ideology. And I say we have to keep this under 15 minutes. So just try to keep just a brief descriptor of what those words mean and all the good shit around that. Well, not all the good shit, just brisk. We try to keep it under 15 minutes. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, the red pill ideology is centered around explaining female nature and pick up how to communicate, just become more sociable in general. Um, and that's really, in some essence nowadays, as seen as a rite of passage for some people to become men, because it's obviously very it can be very fearful. Like it can cause a lot of fear in yourself when you're trying to do it. Like, you cannot, for some people that are really shy, they can't actually initiate this process until they actually, take action. And in that process, they're taking action and they're demonstrating courage to go towards something that they really, something that really matters to them and allows them to grow into a more mature version of themselves. That's part of the psychological path of growth. You have to tangle with I think it's the anima, the ideal woman in your imagination. You have to find a way to get along with her, and I don't want to say tame her, but you have to come to understand how to handle that woman in your mind, and only then can you actually see women for who they really are as a person, and stop projecting this ideal onto every single woman you meet. It's a recurring pattern that you see in a lot of psychologically damaging relationships, codependencies, all that kind of stuff. I've been through it too myself. So it's definitely something that you don't want to go back into if you're trying to go and find love. You want to stay away from those red flags. So red pill ideology gives you that kind of stuff. But ultimately, the core idea is hypergamy. And that is the idea of trying to marry upwards without the man knowing that you're marrying upwards toward him.
Yeah,
So
and you said, what does MGTOW stand for again? Just explain to the audience, the hypothetical audience, for those who don't know the acronym.
yeah, it's men going their own way.
Mhm.
And
Is that synonymous with red pill ideology, or are those two
no.
separate movements?
Well, I suppose the idea is that if you are MGTOW, you're probably red pilled. That's the idea. But you
Ah,
don't have to be red
all
pilled to be MGTOW.
all thumbs are fingers, but not all fingers are thumbs argument. Okay, got you.
Pretty much, I guess.
Okay,
But
so we're gonna go into now. We're gonna actually talk about the idea of marriage, and because you said a few days ago or yesterday, I'm not good with days. Uh, Men don't get anything from marriage, and I was just like, well, do women get anything from marriage? Because what's it called?
it's when you conclude your risk benefit analysis, you get a negative conclusion. So that doesn't necessarily mean that there's nothing to gain from marriage. There's certainly things to gain from marriage. It's just that getting into those topics and trying to weigh that against the very, very real statistical risks that are involved with that kind of business transaction, especially in this current I don't want to say in today's society, but this
No, you're actually
it's a very,
accurate.
very it's a very, very rational decision to not marry right now.
No, but you're accurate.
And
It is a business transaction. What as I've told you before, there's this concept that Karl Marx proposed, and again, full disclosure to anyone watching, I'm not a Marxist. I'm not a socialist. I think Karl Marx was probably one of the most accurate critics of capitalism, but I also think he was one of the most idealistic and foolish. But he did have some decent criticisms about capitalism. One of them was commodity fetishism. Commodity fetishism is the idea that in a capitalistic society, you're not inclined to marry for love. It doesn't make sense to marry for love. It makes sense to marry for stability, sustainability, and I wouldn't say profit, but just for security. So you're not incentivized to marry or procreate or like engage in a relationship because it's something you want to do or something that brings you joy, but you're now more incentivized to do it because it brings with it some financial security and security as a whole. So instead of doing it in terms of like procreation, like I guess you could say humans were built to do, it's now being done in term for the sake of financial stability. So yeah, you're right. It is a business. It's kind of a business transaction because of capitalism. Again, not a
well,
socialist. I wholeheartedly, I am a capitalist through and through. But that is one of the critiques you could say in the name of capitalism.
Are you a socialist? Can you really attest to being a socialist though?
I've told you I'm not a socialist. It's like
that
I
is a
can't.
sufficient argument.
Just
I
like
deny it. I deny it with class, but I deny it. But yeah, yeah. Go ahead. I don't want to interject on what you were saying.
no. I'm done. I was just talking about how you were right. Like marriage has become like sort of like a transaction, a financial
Yeah,
transaction. But I was asking
that's
you to elaborate upon like exactly, not too much. Again, 15 minutes, but like why exactly like there's nothing in it for men. And I'm gonna try to like there's nothing really in it again in a capitalist society, particularly specifically a capitalist egalitarian society, which is what we've kind of moved towards in it for women, really. But I want to hear the argument for why there's nothing in it for men, even though you've talked about it before, and
okay.
I'm
So
pretty aware of all the arguments.
I,
But
I, I don't I actually don't have very much experience with that actual experience of like not getting any benefits from it. But I did grow up in a two-parent household and my parents are still in a loving marriage. So I still have a very, very close visual like representation of what marriage looks like. And then I look out into society and how people behave nowadays with the current general understanding and strategy towards just interacting with the opposite sex nowadays. It's becoming the institution of marriage is no longer a current fit for like that social climate right now. And so that's where we start to see like there's a lot of risks involved in marriage and in divorce courts. the statistics show that men just get completely crushed financially by this, and they can't even recover after several years. It ends up being a very high, um, extremely high and likely risk for suicide, especially for a lot of men that base their identity around like the marriage, being the family man and going to work in order to take care of the family. That process is lost, so they can't bring that identity back. That's why men usually get remarried very quickly. Like they have to rebuild that position immediately, otherwise they can't find their identity. It doesn't, so it's a huge priority. It's like it's such a huge life decision, right? So but yeah, it's just not a very good fit for how people are interacting nowadays. It's really hard to do that. But
I'm
for
gonna
the people
pause you
that are
right
doing it,
there. I'm gonna pause you right there. We're gonna admit the last member of the realm of shenanigans.
oh,
You
let's
know him.
go.
You know him. You love him. It's drum roll, everybody. I don't have a surface to drum on. Someone else drum.
In my drums.
I wonder how obnoxious this is going to be for people if they're actually watching this. It's. I don't want to. I wonder if his actual name's going to show up or if he's going to have his alias show up. Oh, it's his actual name. Well.
Oh,
Whatever.
It's
King Kazama, what's up?
what's up?
King Kazama. He's here.
Hey. Sorry it took so long.
No, you good, man.
Yeah.
So what's going on?
So we were just talking about the first subject of the podcast, which is marriage and what both parties in a traditional cis heteronormative marriage. I fucking hate that I have to say that.
That's a lot.
There's too many big words.
In a traditional cis hetero marriage in our modern society, our patriarchal society, what do both genders or sexes rather get from the experience? And Curtis was he was explaining how both you can't say both parties gain nothing, but men in particular, if you do a cost benefit analysis, that Eddie, you should know that term. Most economics and marketing majors should know that term. Oh, you make me sick.
I'm just playing.
Oh.
I just want to see your reaction.
After doing a cost benefit analysis, it's in the negative for men across the board in the modern society. So Curtis, go on and keep going. I'm sorry, I had to cut you off.
I mean, it's well, let's strip it down to its core elements, right? It's simply a government issued marriage license that is the problem. It's still possible to have a very good, loving, long-term relationship. It's a lot harder to do. I don't want to go completely bashing in on the relationship because like I have a lot of like experiences with better relationships. So, but
we're gonna stop the first half of it right